History Attic is a company owned by myself and my sister. We research the lineage of homes back to their beginnings and present the owners with our findings. We love that each house literally is a different story. How many people have turned those doorknobs? How many people have walked in and out the front door? That's what we really love, is to find the story of each owner.
We knew we wanted a place with history, stories, character, a place that had been lived in, that we could continue to add our life stories to. I think specifically this house has just really great vibes, for lack of a better word. The second we walked in, you could tell that this was a home for people who were just good, kind people, and it was important to us to continue to unravel those stories throughout time and to continue to learn more about the space.
So the research project begins with a visit to the house. I'm a photographer by trade, so by nature I take a ton of photos. Literally distracted by doorknobs is my life. So Mineral Springs Farm, the center of the property, is a gorgeous stone manor home. The house itself is made out of field stone, which was unmilled stone, and literally farmers would take the stones from the field and build their home, which is thus a field stone home. The front door opens to the grand entry, which is explainable. It's the center hall, colonial, which is the dining room on the right proper, parlor on the left proper. Then you go into the back of the house and it's like a maze. It's the 1960s edition, and then they have the kitchen edition. Then you go down the basement. So it's a normal level basement. Then underneath the basement, they have two sets of stairs that go down, and it opens into this milk vault, which I don't think I've ever seen in a house. I've seen a root cellar, outside a house or far away, but never underneath. Then, to make matters even more crazy, there's a door that opens and a tunnel, and then there's a well that's inside the house that you could access from the sub-basement in the house. If that makes any sense.
So when we first reached out to History Attic Research, we wanted to know more about the details that we couldn't find. So we knew we needed a partner, and we had a couple things that we wanted them to look into specifically, but we really also just wanted some overall research, whatever they could find. Some things we wanted to learn more about were maybe some of the women in the house, because we really didn't find much about that on our own. We also wanted to know more about these rumored connections to the Underground Railroad. So those two specifically. What else am I missing?
I think some of the change of the land itself, right, and where it was, how big it was, where was there a barn, where were these mineral springs? Mm-hmm. We knew what was on our patch that's still here, but it used to be hundreds of acres, and now it's much less than that. So right, how did that all happen? And
that evolution.
Yeah,
exactly.
So the process always starts with a deed trace. You start with the current owner's deed, and then you literally go back to where you can't go anymore. We go beyond when the house was built, back to William Penn, because that's when everything started. So then you have all the names. The names lead us everywhere. Newspapers tell us obituaries when they died, their marriages, birth records. They had dinner with the neighbors, which is super exciting. So Langhorne was called Attleboro, then before that it was called Four Lanes End. So I literally did a Google search of history of Langhorne. Four Lanes End came up. I Googled Four Lanes End, and we found the most amazing book written by Marty Grundy. She is a direct descendant of the Paxton family. She had a 200-page book about her whole family, and in it was Mineral Springs Farm. So that's how we found out Anna and her husband William built the house in 1810. They had 2 children, and tragedy struck Anna. Within 10 years, she lost her husband and her 2 children. So here she is, 60 years old, in the 1800s, trying to run a farm by herself. So she called her nephew, Samuel Paxson, and him and his wife and children came, and they helped run the farm, and there's documentation of how happy Anna was to hear children again on the property. So it was a really happy homecoming story, and the farm did really well. The agricultural census shows that it was a thriving milk farm, thus the milk vault.
Yeah, lots of nooks and crannies in this house. So underneath is a full basement, but then there's this crazy next level down. The room itself is brick. It has the original lime-coated ceiling, and then it opens to a well inside your basement, which is now 2 levels underneath the house. We had heard the story that about the Underground Railroad, and legend had it that that was the place that people would stay, and conveniently there was a slot that goes up through 3 levels and pops out randomly into the yard, and we thought, all right, that
makes
plausible,
sense.
but didn't know anything more than that. So we were really intrigued to learn, was that true, and then anything else about this kind of weird space and the well.
A lot of owners claim that they have ties to the Underground Railroad. Another big story is that George Washington slept there. That's like the big myth in Pennsylvania, at least. So this house, we were able to prove a true story about the Underground Railroad. Whisper Down the Lane happens, and stories get told and passed down. The story for Mineral Springs Farm that Hannah and Jeremy were told was the milk vault was where the Underground Railroad took place, that the slaves entered through the ice chute and were somehow filtered through the house that way. Luckily, we had proof in Marty Grundy's book, the book that she wrote on the Richardson family. She has a line in there that Anna, the matriarch of the family, she helped a slave hide in the attic, hid him behind a door with a sleigh bell. Somebody came to the door and asked, and nobody knew because she was the only person in the home that legitimately knew, which is how they protected themselves. The next day, he was filtered on and went to, up to New Jersey and on his way. So that dispelled the myth about the milk vault. Realistically, an ice chute, which is where they said that they entered, was probably too small for somebody to enter. And it would probably it was kind of like in the front of the house along the road. So, the Underground Railroad wasn't underground. It was just a network of homes and people that were sympathetic to slavery that, wanted to help these people to freedom. So that was really neat to be able to find, a written document or a written statement about the Underground Railroad that wasn't myth. Historic homes are disappearing from our landscape more and more every day. Our hope is that the current stewards of Mineral Springs Farm feel more connected to its vibrant history and to the families who endured so much. Some see old wood, dirt, and dust in these structures. We see homes with souls and stories. We are History Attic Research.